Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. It's Friday. Oh, no, it's my Friday. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this guy. This guy.
It's a 1 foot in the parking lot Thursday for Jay.
You know what? That's pretty much true.
This guy.
The day before vacation, it's hard to
Just
stay
give me the
focused.
clipboard and go now.
I am going to try to stay focused for these 2 hours. I promise you. I promise you. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. First of all, Anthony's in the hot seat today. Mikey
Good morning,
McNuggets.
everybody.
Was he went to get his teeth cleaned or
just
something?
left.
Yeah, he just.
dipped.
Yeah, so he had an appointment 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Something like that, and they didn't clean his teeth. They said they had to schedule a second one for that. I don't know. I've never
Sure
been to
they
a
do.
dentist like
And another
that, yeah.
$75 office fee.
Yeah, you got to come in with that copay too. Don't be playing around.
That's interesting. Yeah, so he was here a second ago, and then he just dipped, said, I got to go, guys. So, Anthony, you ready?
No.
I love the eyes.
Love the confidence. Love the confidence.
No, we got this.
Speaking of confidence, that's where we're going to start today's show. I don't know who came up with this. Was it you or Mikey?
This was Mike.
This was
was
Mike.
Mike's idea,
Okay.
and I got to be honest with you guys. This is not my best graphical work. I feel like if I would have spent more than 15 minutes on it, it would have been better.
You raced through it? Is that what you're telling us?
It was this morning thing that I kind of just whipped together. Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel better, you spent 13 more minutes than I did in answering the questions.
And
All right,
14
then
more
we're good.
minutes than I did.
feel no pressure whatsoever.
Just so our audience knows, because Anthony, we tend to pick on Anthony more
Yeah.
than anything.
I don't know why that
But
is.
it's because we love him,
that's
and
true.
it's because he's okay with it.
Yeah, that's right.
I hate to say he's an easy target,
Good
but
sport.
what this guy has done, when he came to us, we said, do you have any graphic experience? No.
No.
Do you ever pay attention to graphics on TV? Not really. Every graphic you see on this show, I think just about everyone, Mike McNuggets makes some, but you're the workhorse on
all
the
the
graphic.
stat ones are a combination. All the creative ones, they just go, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, sure."
Yeah, well, you've really owned it.
Doing a
So
nice job.
Austin Hedges moonlighting as our graphic artist. And
What
so
is our confidence meter that Anthony will get to do a good job today?
I'm a solid 9.
I'm at a solid
Jason?
red.
I'm 11 and a
One.
quarter.
G?
Red.
What?
Oh, talk about 1 foot in the parking lot
Yeah,
Thursday.
What?
Play the music and let's start
What's
the
your
show.
confidence meter that Anthony's going to do a good job today?
Oh, you doing that? Yeah. About that money. Yeah. No. By the way, I think he's gonna do a good job. 9.
Nine.
Yeah,
come
no,
on.
that's
You
what
guys
I
are
got.
way too high.
I mean-
I got a 5. He's
mean-
got to prove it. He's got to prove it.
I mean, these
You're
Let's
on a
go.
prove it deal here, Anthony.
I mean, he's been doing graphics for how long, bro? Like he been.
But it's not graphics.
7
Now
months?
he's in Mike's chair.
We were
That's
just
the
talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm laying
You and I
down.
are the only ones not
so
in the parking
stay
lot
up with
right
the
now.
conversation.
Okay.
Listen,
So
we're
what
all
else was
guilty
we
of
talking
that.
We're on
about?
Thursday, Jay's on Friday, G's on Saturday.
Nobody.
If you want to know what we're talking about all the time, make sure you subscribe
Yes.
to the Ultimate Cleveland
There you
Sports
go.
Show,
That's
people.
dope. And we're not even 20 minutes in.
We're
You guys-
at almost 17,000 subscriptions. Not a lot of people with YouTube channels have 17,000 subscriptions.
Shoot,
But
not
we do.
Not
3
many
million
people
total
got
views,
10.
Hit the
right?
bill.
Have we hit 3
Or hit
million?
the bell.
Real close to
Close.
3 million total
Just
views.
about 3 million.
Oh,
Very
no.
I'm sure today's show is going to put it over the top.
Oh,
That's right.
I have an analytic
No
to it.
question.
You guys are over 3 million views. The YouTube is
Love a good
sometimes
use of
slow.
analytics.
Every time you say analytics, these two fight.
Yeah,
Please don't
that's
use that
not
word.
the catchword.
Just don't even use
We have
that
an
word.
analytic discussion ban.
I was texting Mike during Monday's show. The Browns did not lose because of analytics. Why are we talking about
Browns lost
analytics?
because
While
of
you two, while the Walter Matthau and the other one over here,
It says
just
no.
barking back and
That's
forth
dope.
at each
Jack
other.
Lemon.
Yeah,
That's a
thank
good
you.
one, Anthony.
That's
a good one.
I was literally texting Mike during the show Monday
Yeah.
because, I mean, whatever. We're talking about analytics for 15 minutes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
after the show yesterday, we decided enough of that. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, let's talk about-
we used our analytics to tell us that
Let's
that's a stupid
talk about the
discussion.
reason the Browns are losing. Their defense. They suck.
No, you know what? The reason they're losing is because the whole team has been a disaster. That's really why.
Yeah.
It's been
Well,
it's been a hole
With
in
the
the
exception
jam.
of Nick Chubb,
Yeah.
I think everybody has been a disaster.
Absolutely, it's
And
totally
it's-
fair.
There's not a lot of guys that that you could say have done their job or have overachieved.
There have been a ton of times.
The offensive line, we should mention, has
Well,
carried their weight at times.
Well, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones been okay. He's been
I
okay.
actually think almost everybody on offense has done what we've expected or better. Almost everybody, if not everybody.
I wanted more from Amari Cooper at this point.
I think
I
on
would've-
defense,
I would've asked for that,
everybody has done below what we
yes.
expected.
There have
Yeah,
been
that's
times
fair.
where
Except for maybe Martin Emerson.
there have been games the defense has completely let them down. There's been games the special teams has let them down.
Ooh.
There's been times Kevin Stefanski's let them down. There's been times Jacoby Brissett's let them
plenty
down.
of blame to
There's
go around.
plenty of
Yeah.
blame to go
There-
around.
And that much
certainly
we're
is.
certain of. Okay, so the confidence meter, here's how this is going to work. Anthony's going to tell us what the subject is. We're all going to give our answers and then discuss. You ready to go,
These
Ant?
were hard.
Yeah, so our first one here, we asked you guys, will Nick Chubb get 20 touches versus Cincinnati? And I have the numbers here because I don't have them on the graphics. So, Jay, you said 6 out of 10. G had 4 out of 10. Jason had 2 out of 10. And Bull had 3 out of 10.
Wow, I was high on this.
Yeah.
Surprising.
I mean, he doesn't
is.
get 20, so I don't know why suddenly he's going to.
No.
He doesn't get it often. Also, my thought was that the Bengals have been playing well. Their offense is playing well. If the Bengals are up big in this game,
They're going to have to throw it.
they're going to have to throw the ball.
Right, that was my fear for going 6.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm not optimistic. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
And I think that when Aditi was on the show earlier this week, and she's going to be on today's show coming up later, so will Maurice Claret, so will Robert Smith. When Aditi, the voice of calm and reason, who draws a paycheck from the Browns, came on the show and very calmly said, I don't get it. I don't get why Kevin Stefanski isn't using him more. It's the first rule in the NFL is know who you are. And this team is a run team. How in the world have they avoided using their nuclear weapon more than they've used him? So if Aditi's figured it out and she's that calm, and I have to think that that is the conversation at the offices this week. If for no other reason, the media is all over it. And by the way, it's not just the local media. I've seen national media, national shows discuss what are the Browns doing with Nick Chubb. So I think eventually that voice is going to be so loud that he can't ignore it, and he's gonna get 20 carries this week. Again, hopeful, not optimistic.
But
Go ahead, Boo.
I was going to say, I just think game script is probably not going to end up that way. But go ahead.
Because they're going to be behind
Yes.
big.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a little more trouble than I thought they would incorporating Deshaun Watson, and I think that's one of the bigger themes that you'll start to look at.
Why?
As they go because, and now that I'm looking at it and I'm thinking back, this has been in the making a long time. Like, he didn't know Jacoby Brissett was not taking the first team reps. He was not using him. He didn't play in the preseason. So he didn't have any of those reps to figure out what he does and how he would like the game plan around that. Deshaun Watson hasn't played in 2 years, right? So when Deshaun Watson comes back in, we know what he has as far as his skill set. But if we don't understand what the mix is now with Nick Chubb, how will we understand what the mix is when Deshaun Watson comes?
That's an interesting point.
And especially because he has a better skill set. So now you're going to have to figure out, if you haven't figured out in a way to say, in these areas, these are definitely Nick Chubb touches. I love the fact that he can do this, this, and that. But when you throw in a wild card like Deshaun Watson, who can do RPOs, they don't run that now. Who can run read option, they don't do any of that now. Who can get in a pistol, they don't do any of that now. All of these things are things that
So they'll have to figure it out
all over again. It's a brand new offense.
That might be what the last 6 games of this season are
Brand
for.
new
because
offense.
It doesn't look like it'll be for a playoff chase.
Yeah, it's going to be more difficult than meets the eye because there's
But
a
these
lot.
last 6 games, let's face it, are to essentially, I don't know, people don't want to hear it, but the reality is the last 6 games are probably just to get ready for next year.
It feels like it.
That's what it is.
Jay, do you agree with that?
I've thought that all along.
Yeah, you did.
So we've more or less said that all. And to your point, G, I wrote about this when the trade first went down. Listen, $230 million guaranteed. Let's be honest, that had a lot to do with why Deshaun came here, right? But he was going to get paid no matter where he went. So I do think people overblow that a little bit. I believe one of the big reasons, and this is also why I think Kevin is not in any trouble right now. One of the big reasons Deshaun came here is because Kevin sat with Deshaun for 45 minutes in Rusty Harden's office, and they chopped it up over film and X's and O's, and Kevin showed him, this is what you did in Houston. This is how we did it. This is how we can use you. And that was a huge selling point in Deshaun coming here. Yes, the 230 was as well.
Of course,
But the
yeah.
fact that Kevin showed him, this is how we're going to use you, this is how we're going to deploy you, and it's all those things you just talked about.
They're not going to blow that up before they get to see
Well,
it.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, if Kevin was one of the big reasons that was a draw for Deshaun to come here, why would you get rid of this guy before you even see what you have?
You can't.
It's just
It's nonsense.
He's
You
a
can't.
major part. He even went through some cut-ups where he thought he could do better in certain areas.
Yes.
And he loved that. He said, I love being coached hard.
Yeah.
I love his offensive scheme. That's why, in the offensive line, the playmakers, that's why I came. So that's a huge part. There's no way that all of a sudden now you would just switch and get rid of him. That's half the reason he came.
All right.
Fans get emotional and say, well, we got to fire. That's what we do in Cleveland. You got to fire the coach.
Hell, if they lose again, I'll get emotional.
You've already gotten emotional.
Man,
All right, number 2.
Yeah, so number 2, we actually asked along those lines. The entire Browns coaching staff remains the same after the bye week. So, Jay, you said 4. G said 8. Jason said 6. And Bull had 9.
I like the graphic, by the way.
I do, because
Yeah, I'm just confused on our answers on what we all said.
So
The question was, what's your confidence that the staff will remain intact, right?
Yeah.
After the bye.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think
I know I said 4 and you said 9. I think you
I said
Green
5.
is
I was
good.
right
Jay,
in the
you
middle.
think it's most likely not to stay intact?
Yes.
I don't see how it can.
By the way, that picture of you looks fun. Your arms look super long. in
Yeah,
that
I
picture.
have very long limbs.
But-
and that really comes home in that picture. I think they actually made my hands bigger in that shot.
It's funny. So you think you think Joe Woods is going to get fired?
No, I think it's going to be Prefer.
Oh, Prefer.
I really do. I've been looking particularly at special teams since the Jets game. And
Right.
because I always thought, well, we don't have to worry about special teams because we've been told that Prefer's so good.
Yeah.
But I've really been paying close attention to all of the plays, our punt coverage, when we're punting, when we're returning punts, kickoffs, everything. We're not good. I can't. Other than the fact that our rookie kicker, who's missed a kick that would have won a game, missed another one at 61 yards or whatever it was, 60 that was blocked. I think he's been the bright spot of our special teams. He's missed the 3, 1 was blocked. But I think he's done what I expected him to do anyhow. I expected him to miss. I expect him to miss some more. But outside of that, and I know that a lot of it has to do with the fact that we signed returners and he got hurt. And, we can't seem to fill that void. I just don't think Prefer's here after the bye week.
I'm really high. You're at 9.
I went the highest.
I'm
I
at
just think
8.
This organization has shown you. Well, I shouldn't say that. This organization hasn't shown you anything. This current regime has shown you that they don't do things emotionally.
Yeah, they're more
Right?
patient than
now.
past.
Jimmy does, so that's the possibility here. Jimmy may force a move. Jimmy is an emotional eater, if you will, but DePodesta's not, and Berry's not, and Stefanski's not.
No.
I think there will be changes made. I think Joe Woods and Prefer will both be out, but I don't think either is going to happen until the end of the year.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
I think it would take another special teams calamity Monday night, which is always possible, right?
Right,
Like, we've
sure.
seen plenty of them already. But I tend to side with Bull. I just don't think that they're going to react emotionally. And I don't know. I hear what Brad says, and I agree with what he says. Sometimes you just got to cut a head off just to cut a head off, just to
Right.
get their attention. But I don't know what changing a coordinator at this stage of the season, I don't know what that accomplishes.
Other than sending a message.
right.
Yes.
And maybe that's good enough.
Yeah. And
But-
I think it'd be a sacrificial lamb. I do think that I remember meeting Prefer when I was doing the preseason games, and he came in one of the preseason planning sessions. Very, very smart, well-spoken guy.
Yes.
He's from Cleveland. I remember thinking I left that meeting saying, God, I'm rooting for that guy.
He ran the Thursday
and then
night
he
game.
was the one that got the head coaching gig on the Thursday night game and did fine.
Yep.
He won the playoff game.
Yeah.
Like he went and won the playoff game in Pittsburgh when Stefanski was chilling, when he was sick. So I'd be upset after the games. When he asks these questions, you still have to dig down and look at it. It's not about what I would do. It's about what I think they would do and will do. If you look at the special teams, the first thing they're going to say is they'll have an evaluation. They'll sit down and say, okay, what do we want to start with? Well, when Jakeem Grant got hurt, that killed the return game. They'll say we got a rookie kicker. We already knew that there was going to be some issues with the rookie kicker. Okay, we have that. And then also, you also have to take a look at some of the stuff is, okay, we didn't recover onside kick. Okay, there hasn't been he hasn't given up a punt return for a touchdown, a kickoff or return for a touchdown. So there's a lot of different things that you could say, well, we got younger players.
They did another onside kick that we needed to recover, that we recovered.
But he was out of bounds.
The player was out of bounds.
So
and they blew another onside
They did
kick
blow another
that
onside
they just
kick
got lucky
that they got
on.
lucky and recovered.
Yes.
And they made the same mistake that they made
They
the week
did.
earlier.
And I think, listen, I agree with you guys. If I'm going to fire anybody, it's Prefer, even before Joe Woods. At least over 3 years, Joe Woods has had some good moments.
Yeah.
The defense played well for most of last
But
year.
boy, he's been too Jekyll and Hyde.
Agreed.
You want consistency.
100% agree, and I would move on from him by the end of the year, the latest. But Prefer has, what does he have? Maybe this is not fair. You guys tell me if you think I'm being unfair. I don't even give him credit for Cade York. I'm like, Cade York? Like, what is he?
Or that's another thing.
Like, I look at the young punter they had in the Scottish Hammer. That's a guy who needed coaching, right? Because he was new to football.
Sure.
And I thought he regressed as a player.
Well, he needed to stay out of the bars.
Okay, that's
yeah,
it.
I've heard that. I've heard
That's
that as
fair.
well.
But the
And that's
special
on him.
teams,
That's
And
not
by the way,
coaching.
he's in the NFL still.
yeah,
He's
that's
with
true.
the Giants.
Special teams have been a disaster for the entire time he's been here.
The defense is where I would go and look at, but I just got to look at the way the regime thinks about stuff, right? If they go in and if I'm Joe Woods, I could go in and say, look, I needed better defensive tackles. This is what I was given. Hey, you said I got everyone. We got everybody back. That's not necessarily true. The defensive tackle, them two Maliks inside were light years better than what they got now.
Well, but you know what I would say to him? I would say Bill Callahan got a center who was a bust in Seattle.
No, that's very
and
true.
Has turned him into one of the better, a guy having a good year.
That's a rebuttal,
right?
I think he does. I think he does eventually get let go, but.
At the end of the year.
At the end of the year. If there's anybody going this at the end of the year, not during the middle of the season, because I think they want an evaluation for everything. Because you do have to see, how do players play for you when you're out of it? Are you going to play hard or are they going to give up?
Great question.
And that's on the
And
player.
I would say, guys, one thing here. I think it's important that the Browns replace Joe Woods with a veteran, proven defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer.
That's
type.
the name.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Because look at what the Rams did with Sean McVay, right? They brought in Wade Phillips, and that's when they were at their best. And, I think these young offensive coaches that are so focused on the offense, if they're going to continue to do that, if Kevin Stefanski's going to call the plays and be Mr. Offensive guy, well, he's got to get a defensive coach that's a head coach type of guy.
That's almost the blueprint in the league now.
is.
These
That's
coaches,
right.
the hires are all young, offensive-minded,
Right.
for the most part unproven.
Right.
And I think the way you counter that is you need a genius type on the other side that's going to
right.
stand up and stop that.
That's right.
Wink Martindale, when you see, now I know Baltimore's lost some pieces too, but I used to be afraid to play Baltimore. I used to say, Wink's going to come up with
Right.
something.
Right.
And the reason they're where they are now is because Wink isn't there anymore.
Well, look where he is now.
And look what they're doing.
Exactly.
So-
the Bengals have lucked into a guy that I knew nothing about. Their DC, Lou Anarumo.
Yeah,
he's done a magnificent job.
has.
You look at the Bengals defense, they don't have stars. They don't have stars.
No.
Who's a star on the Bengals
There's
defense?
guys
They got
like-
a bunch of good, solid players. We talked about this. You've complained about this. I think it was you. It might have been G, but I think it was you that said the Browns have like a studs and duds type of defense.
Yeah, I think they do.
The Bengals don't have that.
And I'm fine
They've
with
got a
that.
bunch
I'd
of
rather
guys
be
in
that
the
way.
middle.
I'd rather be that way.
And he deploys them, and there was no better example than last year in the AFC Championship game when he changed the entire defense in the second half against the Chiefs, and Mahomes didn't know what the hell to do.
No, he didn't, and nor did Andy Reid.
That's right.
Which was the most stunning thing about that game to me. I kept
Exactly.
thinking, well, Andy's going to
He'll
eventually
adjust,
figure
and
it
he
out,
couldn't.
and he didn't know what
and
was
he
going
couldn't,
on.
and that's how big a difference a defensive coordinator
and
can make.
They made it to the Super Bowl because of that move.
And Mike Zimmer, I don't know if he still wants to be a DC at this point, but Mike Zimmer as a defensive coordinator, I know his defense in Minnesota struggled at the end when he was the head coach.
I'll go get him today.
But he is a DC, wherever he's been as a DC, that team has been good.
Yeah, no question.
One more point I want to make on Prefer before we move on. I don't understand why the Ravens spend more money than any team in the league on special teams. They invest more. They don't have just a special teams coach. They have like a kicking instructor for Justin Tucker.
Should have that,
Why don't more teams...
Great question.
I was talking to Phil Dawson about that a year or two ago, and Phil was the one that kind of turned me on to this about how much Baltimore invests in special teams. I mean, their coach was a special teams coach.
Right.
And now they have the best in the league, and it's not even close.
Well, let's hire Phil Dawson as our kicking coach. and bring them in.
Like, why not?
Like, who
That is
better?
really stupid.
Who knows
How
who's
do you
better
not
than
have a
better?
specific kicking
And,
coach?
and when you really break it down, like, what are we talking financially? Nothing. And it
It's-
doesn't work against the cap.
For a multi-billion-dollar operation, it is insane.
I
You
don't
have
know
that.
this, but I'm guessing Phil probably doesn't want to do it. He's in
Well,
Texas and he's retired. And
sure,
why
but
would
you
he
could
want to?
Bring
find
in
somebody.
someone like him.
Yeah.
Phil would be the ideal guy,
Right.
obviously.
You know what's
But-
interesting? I was talking to Cade a week or so ago just about the swirling winds and everything, and he said, like, the third quarter, the first quarter, it's completely different.
That's amazing.
And I said, are you like, you got weatherman in you? Can you tell, all right, it's 8 miles an hour out of the southwest? It's like, no, I just look at the flag.
That's it.
And that's it. And that's it. And you got one shot. Like, you don't get a
Yeah.
practice swing or
Yeah.
nothing.
And because it's a swirling wind, it's just like when you play golf. Whenever for golfers that have played in conditions that where it is a swirling wind, and you know what a swirling wind feels like. When you hit the ball, you might set up to go left edge of the fairway, thinking that it's going to be a crosswind and it's going to push it to the right edge of the fairway.
Right.
And I've had a million swings, particularly here. I don't know why it's more difficult here. Maybe it's because of the proximity to the lake. In my backswing, I can feel, oh no, the wind's at my face now.
Yeah.
And before I started moving my club, it was clearly at my back. And now you just go through with it and you hope and you see the ball and you watch it all of a sudden
too late.
go to the left and you're already aiming left.
Yeah.
So it can make kickers look really,
It is
really bad.
insane. It's interesting that you brought it up. It is insane that every team doesn't have a specific kicking coach.
There's two things. The kicking coach, and I don't understand why they don't have a clock situation guy who he just calls the play based on what's going on. Like, the coach shouldn't even call it. Like, if it's like 4th and 1 or it's 30 seconds or when should you call timeouts with 2 minutes left in the game, the coach shouldn't even run it. It should be a guy that works on these scenarios the whole week, and he just calls it in. You're just
Yeah,
like,
there's
okay.
so much money. You could afford to have anything you want. Really.
Yeah, you would think, especially when with the Browns,
Yeah.
3 points has been the difference in 4 of their losses.
Yeah.
3
Right.
points.
And go across
so
the
we
NFL.
can point to any number of plays, one single play in all 4 of those games, and in fact, probably 5 plays individually on their own.
Yeah.
And they're not 2 and 5; they're 6 and 1. And it's just amazing to me. The devil is in the details.
Absolutely.
And Baltimore knows that more than any franchise in the
Absolutely.
league.
Majority of NFL games are close. It's the little
are.
things. It's the one play. It's some of it's luck.
Yes, a lot of it
Yeah.
is luck. Anthony?
All right,
next
so
one.
for our last one here today, what are your guys' confidence level that the Browns can beat the Bengals for the 5th time in a row on Halloween night, Monday night? Jay and G are both at a 2 out of 10. Jason is at a 5, and he's our highest, and Bull was at a 4.
Go ahead. Explain
Jason,
why you're a
I
5.
can't believe I'm the highest at 5. I'm like right in the middle. Like,
Yeah, right.
I don't have a
50 is an F.
normally.
It is an F.
Normally, I got a pretty good feeling one way or the other. I have no idea what to make of Monday night. I have no idea what to expect.
That's kind of the NFL right now.
Right? Like-
all you have to do is just think about Tampa and Carolina, and you're like, I don't know anything
well,
about the league.
yeah, and
The Bears just beat New
The Bears
England,
I know,
You know,
pounded
whatever.
them. And again, like I said before, I thought they'd be 2-2, but they didn't. The wins and losses were different than what I thought they'd
Yeah.
be. I actually thought that they would beat San Diego. I keep calling them San Diego. The Chargers. I really thought they were going to win that game. They probably should have won that game.
Should have.
And now to the point where, like, man, I just can't believe this team would be 2-6. But it's hard for me to see a path to winning. But I can't believe they're going to be 2-6. Like, there's
can't
more
either.
talent to be 2-6. So that's why
but
I'm just right in the middle. At
You're
5.
looking at the macro.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at this matchup.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Cincinnati has figured it
They're
out.
putting
We
it
had
together.
a graphic yesterday that showed what Joe Burrow's touchdown and interception numbers were. I don't know if you can find
Since
it,
week
Ant,
3,
but,
yeah.
but his numbers through the first 2 games
Yeah.
or 3 games, and then his numbers over the last 4. So over his last 4, he's got 12 touchdowns and 1 pick. And through the first 3, they were like, that's not the one. It was the one that had his touchdown and interception numbers. So for the first 3 games, if my memory's right,
I think it was the first 2.
it was like 3
It was the
touchdowns,
first 2 and then
but
we
4
st- yeah.
interceptions. And then
Yeah.
it was 12 touchdowns, 1 in. He's figured it out.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, whatever adjustment the league made to the Bengals winning winning the AFC last year,
Yeah.
I think that they've done what coaches do. They've looked at the film. They said, "Oh, okay, we
Yeah.
see what they're doing now. This is what we're going to do to counter it." Sports is all about adjustments. And I don't have confidence that the Browns are going to make the successful adjustments.
Those are his
to
total
stop this.
stats for
Those
the
are his
season.
totals.
But
Yeah.
there- we had a-
so there
we
was
had a
one that
graphic
broke
that-
down his
yeah.
first 2 games and his last 5 games.
Yeah.
And I think the numbers were 12-1 touchdowns to picks and 4 or 3 touchdowns, 4 picks through the first 2 games.
Yeah.
So I have very low confidence.
Everything on paper points to the Bengals winning, but as we all know, and we all talked about, you never know.
Which is why I went to a 2.
And they're at home.
Right. Browns are at home.
It's a Monday night.
I know.
Maybe the team is fired up after what happened in the locker room after the game. I agree. I always have that feeling of like this team shouldn't be 2-6, so I expect them to win.
Right.
And the Browns have, for whatever reason, have had the Bengals number the last couple of years.
Jay, have you heard anything more on what transpired in the Browns locker room?
No, I've got some names, but not confirmed to the point
So you're not gonna go with
to
them.
share. But defensive guys.
Would it be the ones that we might think
Probably.
of? Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
Yelling at each other, essentially, other defensive players?
No, just names that were involved in the shouting.
Right.
And so I'm okay with that. I want that because if nobody's shouting at anybody, then nobody cares.
Right.
It's almost these guys are hurting. They're hurting.
It's almost like it's about time.
Yes. Why did it take 7 weeks?
This is kind of a good thing.
We've been waiting for it really since the Jets game. I was hoping someone would have stood up and said, "What did we just do?
Shouldn't have
We
taken
just
this
made
long."
NFL history in the worst possible way." And by the way, whatever number of games it was that had happened between a team blowing a 14-point lead under 2 minutes to go, it will be that many more games before we see it again.
Well, and the team who did it before that was the Browns
Was the
also.
Browns.
Of course they will.
Yeah.
These guys are just young. They're very young. Like the defense. When I started seeing like, okay, Grant Delpit, John Johnson, these guys, they're young, and so.
But Myles Garrett isn't.
No.
And here's why that's not an excuse, and I know it's a different sport.
No,
I
We
know
got
where
a
you're
young
going.
basketball team.
I was
We
gonna
got
say
a young
baseball.
baseball team.
Yeah.
They don't do any of that nonsense.
Well, here's what I'm saying.
Because they have leaders.
Here's what I'm saying.
right.
When you young, there's a propensity for you to act like everything is chill, everything's good. It's a
Right.
false sense of security. Oh, we still good.
True.
We
That's
still
true.
good. We just got to fix this. We good. And there needs to be a veteran that comes around and says, "Oh no, I've been around teams that look just like you. Matter of fact, we used to pound guys like you." And when I look at the defense, there's just these guys are not the vocal leader. Like, there's no guy that I look at and say, "Oh, he's the captain."
Yeah.
No.
It seems like there's no sense of urgency. on
It's
the
guys. It's just some guys
And
that's playing defense. That's it.
It
Aditi
feels
said,
like they all read their press clippings coming into the season.
Maybe.
And they're like, we got it.
But you know what? They provided the press clippings.
Yep.
A
That's
lot of
true.
them told us they were going to be the top-ranked
That's
defense.
true.
And now they got to play
fair.
Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they mad. They told y'all they was coming for that smoke for y'all.
That's the
They
matchups I
told
can't
you.
wait. I cannot wait to
told
see
you.
how that goes. And by the way, Joe Burrow's never beaten the Browns.
Correct.
And we know that that's a sticking point. My fear is this one goes sideways fast. if it's 21-0 like it was last week for the Bengals, before you blinked and it was 21-0.
Yeah.
If they do that again, this team, we've seen it. They're not built to come back from one-score deficits.
not
If
three.
they fall down 3, Nick Chubb can go take a shower.
Right.
And then it's going to be how many passes is Jacoby Brissett going to throw to the wrong team?
Plus, that's when the defense knows he's throwing, and that's
when it
south.
gets most hard to throw.
But by the way, it's funny. We've often said on the show, if they had Deshaun Watson, their record would be 5-2, 6-1, whatever we
Right.
think, right? What we haven't said once was, and I think the same thing, if this defense was playing like we all thought they would play, they'd probably be 5-2, 6-1 right now.
I
And
agree.
for all the complaints about Nick Chubb usage or Brissett throwing, Stefanski play calling, that would all be out the window had the defense been playing as we expected.
They only
4
had this
losses
play-
by 9 points,
Yeah.
and the defense is one of the worst
Been
in the
awful.
NFL.
All they had to be
28.
is average. All they had to be
Right.
is average.
Yes.
We thought they'd be
average.
Average.
We thought they'd be great. We would have settled for average. They've been awful.
Yeah, that's right. I know we're waiting for Maurice to come on at 11:30. Before we do that, I really wanted to ask this question because I think this is going to have a lot to do with what happens on Monday. Injuries are definitely a concern for this game. And Njoku we know is going to be out. Phillips we know is going to be out. Ward and Teller. Who would be most beneficial to have on Monday night?
Ward.
I
It's got to be.
think
It's
I
got to be
agree.
Denzel.
I think Ward.
100%.
In this game,
They
As
need
good as
him, and they
Teller
need
is.
old Denzel Ward. They don't need this year's Denzel
Right.
Ward. Because if Chase ends up going nuts, like I'm afraid he will, it's going to be a huge deficit that they can't dig out of.
plus the Bengals, have the best trio of receivers in the league.
I would buy that.
So you need all hands on deck at cornerback.
Everybody.
You can't, because T. Higgins is the number 1 receiver on half the teams in the league. Tyler Boyd, who's their 3rd receiver, is a number 2 receiver on 90% of the teams in the league.
Yeah.
So when your 3rd receiver could be a 1,000-yard receiver, is that kind of talent, you've got to have all hands on deck in the second.
Although I will say, the Ravens got the Ravens defense was coming right up the middle on the Browns, and you haven't seen that very often. I think Posich was kind of helping the Teller void. I just saw a couple plays where it seemed like he was trying to double and help the new right guard, and I think it left leaks in the middle, and you saw the Ravens taking
part of the
advantage
reason I said cornerbacks also is that the Bengals' best defensive tackle is not playing in the game. DJ Reader's out. He's their best tackle. Their tackles, their current best tackle is a guy named B.J. Hill, who's solid, but he's not spectacular.
I don't know what happened to Denzel Ward. I just don't.
I don't
It's
either.
baffling.
It's a mystery.
I know what happened.
Mystery.
He got the money.
I don't.
Well, it looks like it.
He got
On the
paid.
surface,
That's
it
how
looks like
yeah.
it.
I wanted to say he was the most important, but I'm sitting here thinking about his performance. I'm like, man, I'd rather have Emerson on sometimes because he don't know. He at least he play hard and physical. He a big corner. I ain't seen him get beat. Even he got beat a little bit the last game, right, against the Ravens, right?
Not so much beat. I thought it was his technique.
Technique, right? If at least if you in the play, I could coach you up. Sometimes Denzel Ward, I'm like,
Wrong
why
quadrant.
are you that far off of him? Is that
He's been the biggest disappointment on the entire roster,
I hope it's not because he got paid. I really do. Because then I completely swung and missed on his character. Because before you give a guy that kind of deal, which makes him, at the time, the highest paid cornerback in the league, defensive back in the league, before you do that, you're not just judging his skill set, you're judging his character.
Right.
And none of us questioned
Is
that.
he worthy of a long-term investment? And if the Browns missed, I missed too because I thought
None
he
of us.
was.
We all
None of
missed.
us would have
Nobody
guessed
thought that was going to be.
Let's bring in Maurice.